Have you ever wondered why someone would destroy the very thing they claim to want most? Picture this. A person stands at the edge of everything they've ever dreamed of in love. Yet instead of stepping forward, they light a match and watch it all burn. This isn't madness, though it might appear so to the untrained eye. This is how avoidants turn loss aversion into relationship sabotage, and understanding this psychological phenomenon could save countless hearts from unnecessary destruction. Loss aversion, you see, is that peculiar quirk of human psychology where losing something feels twice as painful as gaining something feels good. For most people, this creates a healthy caution in relationships. But for those with avoidant attachment styles, this natural tendency becomes weaponized against their own happiness. They fear losing someone so intensely that they choose to lose them on their own terms instead, creating a tragic paradox that destroys what they most desire to protect. The human mind, in its infinite complexity, doesn't always serve our best interests. Sometimes our protective mechanisms become our greatest enemies. When someone has learned early in life that emotional closeness leads to disappointment, abandonment, or pain, their brain develops sophisticated defense systems. These defenses work magnificently in childhood, protecting a vulnerable heart from further damage. But in adult relationships, these same defenses become relationship terminators, sophisticated sabotage systems that activate precisely when love becomes real and threatening. What makes this particularly heartbreaking is the timing. Avoidants don't sabotage casual relationships or surface-level connections. No, their sabotage systems are far too clever for that. They wait until the stakes are highest, until genuine intimacy develops, until someone actually matters. That's when the loss aversion kicks into overdrive, and that's when the destruction begins. It's like having a fire alarm that only goes off when everything is perfectly safe, creating chaos in moments of peace. But here's what most people don't understand about this pattern. It's not cruelty, it's terror. The avoidant person isn't trying to hurt their partner, though hurt inevitably follows. They're trying to survive what feels like an existential threat to their carefully constructed emotional world. Their actions might look like calculated cruelty from the outside, but from their perspective, they're performing emergency surgery on their own heart before it can be torn apart by someone else's hands. Throughout this exploration, we'll uncover the hidden mechanisms that drive this behavior, witness real stories of how it plays out in actual relationships, and discover practical ways to recognize and interrupt these patterns before they destroy something beautiful. If you want to better understand someone's attachment style, see the link in the description to one of the most popular books on attachment theory. Now, let's dive into a story that illustrates exactly how this psychological dance of destruction unfolds in real life. Meet Sarah, a successful marketing executive who had spent 3 years convinced she was simply unlucky in love. Her relationships followed a predictable pattern: intense beginnings, growing closeness, then sudden, explosive endings that left her partners confused and heartbroken. Sarah couldn't understand why she kept choosing the wrong people, but the truth was far more complex than bad selection. The pattern began with Marcus, a kind-hearted teacher she met at a coffee shop. Their connection was immediate and genuine. Marcus was patient, consistent, and showed up in ways no one ever had before. For 6 months, their relationship was everything Sarah had claimed to want. Marcus remembered small details about her day, brought her favorite pastries on difficult mornings, and listened to her work frustrations with genuine interest and helpful suggestions. But something curious began happening as their relationship deepened. Sarah started noticing things about Marcus that hadn't bothered her before. The way he chewed his food became annoying. His laugh seemed too loud in restaurants. His texts, which she once found sweet and attentive, now felt clingy and overwhelming. These weren't random observations, though Sarah believed they were. Her brain was actively scanning for flaws, preparing ammunition for an inevitable battle. The psychological principle at work here is called confirmation bias, where the mind seeks information that confirms pre-existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. Sarah's deep-seated belief that love always ends in pain was directing her attention toward anything that could justify ending the relationship before Marcus could end it first. Her loss aversion had become so intense that she was willing to guarantee a loss to avoid the possibility of a more painful surprise loss later. What happened next reveals the devastating efficiency of avoidant sabotage. During a particularly stressful week at work, Marcus offered to cook dinner for Sarah and suggested they spend a quiet evening together. Instead of seeing this as the loving gesture it was, Sarah's attachment system interpreted it as suffocating closeness. She felt trapped, though she was completely free to leave at any time. The cognitive dissonance between what she thought she wanted and how she actually felt when she got it created an internal crisis. That night, Sarah picked a fight over something trivial, Marcus's choice of wine with dinner. But this wasn't really about wine, of course. This was about creating enough emotional distance to breathe again, to feel safe again, to regain control over her emotional environment. The fight escalated quickly, fueled by months of suppressed anxiety about growing intimacy. Sarah said things she didn't mean, attacked character traits she actually admired, and pushed Marcus away with surgical precision. Here's where the story takes its most tragic turn. Marcus, being emotionally healthy, tried to repair the damage. He apologized for his part in the conflict, asked what he could do differently, and expressed his commitment to working through difficulties together. For someone with secure attachment, this response would feel reassuring and loving. For Sarah, it felt like a trap closing around her heart. His reasonableness made her feel crazy, his patience made her feel suffocated, and his desire to work things out made her want to run faster. The final sabotage move came 2 weeks later. Sarah started working late every night, stopped responding to texts promptly, and began mentioning a co-worker named David with suspicious frequency. She wasn't cheating, but she was creating the conditions for Marcus to become jealous, insecure, and eventually angry. When someone is afraid of being abandoned, they often create situations that force the other person to do the abandoning. It's a twisted form of control, choosing the timing and method of inevitable loss. Marcus finally reached his limit and ended the relationship, exactly as Sarah's unconscious mind had predicted and orchestrated. The breakup was painful, but it also brought Sarah a strange sense of relief. Her loss aversion had been satisfied. She had lost Marcus, but she had lost him on her own terms, in a way she could understand and control. The unknown threat of potential future loss had been replaced by the known reality of current loss, which felt somehow safer. But here's what makes this story particularly heartbreaking. Sarah repeated this exact pattern with the next 3 men she dated. Each relationship lasted between 4 to 8 months, long enough for real intimacy to develop, long enough for her sabotage systems to activate, long enough for genuine damage to occur to everyone involved. She was trapped in a cycle of creating the very experiences that had taught her to fear love in the first place. The most insidious part of this pattern is how it reinforces itself. Each sabotaged relationship provides evidence that love doesn't last, that people leave, that opening your heart leads to pain. Sarah's behavior created a self-fulfilling prophecy that confirmed her deepest fears while protecting her from her deepest desires. She was simultaneously the victim and the perpetrator of her own romantic destruction, though she understood neither role consciously. Now that we've seen how avoidant sabotage unfolds in real relationships, let's explore the practical steps for recognizing and interrupting these patterns before they destroy something precious. The first crucial step is developing awareness of your own attachment triggers. Those specific moments when your nervous system shifts from connection mode into protection mode. These triggers often masquerade as logical concerns about your partner or relationship, but they have distinctive characteristics that reveal their true nature. Pay close attention to timing when relationship doubts arise. If concerns about your partner's character, compatibility, or long-term potential suddenly intensify after moments of increased intimacy, you're likely experiencing attachment activation rather than genuine relationship assessment. Real relationship concerns tend to be consistent over time and based on observable patterns of behavior. Attachment triggers, on the other hand, spike dramatically after sex, emotional conversations, meeting family members, or discussions about the future. The physical sensations accompanying these thoughts provide additional clues about their origin. Genuine relationship concerns typically feel grounded and clear, even if they're difficult to face. Attachment activation feels more like panic, creating sensations of suffocation, trapped energy, or an urgent need to escape. Your body might feel restless, your chest might feel tight, or you might experience an overwhelming desire to pick fights or create distance. Learning to recognize these physical signals gives you precious moments to pause before sabotage behaviors take over. Think about Blair Waldorf from Gossip Girl, who regularly sabotaged her relationship with Chuck Bass whenever their connection became too real and vulnerable. Her dramatic breakups and cruel words weren't really about the surface issues she claimed bothered her. They were desperate attempts to regain control when love felt too threatening to her carefully protected heart. Recognizing this pattern in fictional characters can help you spot it more easily in your own behavior. The second essential step involves creating space between trigger and response, what psychologists call building distress tolerance. When your attachment system activates and starts generating urgent messages about needing to end the relationship, flee the situation, or create conflict, resist the impulse to act immediately. These feelings, no matter how intense they seem, are temporary visitors in your emotional experience, not permanent residents requiring immediate accommodation. Develop a personal protocol for managing these moments. This might involve taking a walk, calling a trusted friend who understands your patterns, writing in a journal, or practicing breathing exercises. The specific activity matters less than your commitment to not making relationship decisions while your nervous system is in crisis mode. Tell yourself, and mean it, that you won't break up with anyone, send harsh texts, or pick fights for at least 24 hours after attachment activation begins. During this cooling off period, practice what therapists call reality testing. Ask yourself specific questions designed to separate attachment fears from legitimate relationship concerns. Has your partner actually done anything harmful, or are you responding to imagined future scenarios? Are the flaws you're suddenly noticing actually new, or have they been present all along but only recently become emotionally charged? Would you advise a friend to end a relationship based on the evidence you're considering, or does your advice to yourself feel disproportionately dramatic? Consider Love Quinn from the Netflix series You, whose attachment system was so dysregulated that she couldn't distinguish between love and obsession, between connection and control. While her behavior was extreme, the underlying pattern of creating chaos when relationships became too intimate is surprisingly common among people with avoidant attachment. The key difference is learning to recognize these impulses without acting on them destructively. The third critical step requires developing what attachment researchers call earned security through corrective emotional experiences. This means deliberately staying present during moments when your attachment system wants you to flee, allowing yourself to experience intimacy without immediately sabotaging it. Start with small doses of vulnerability and gradually increase your tolerance for emotional closeness over time. Practice sharing minor fears, disappointments, or insecurities with your partner and notice what happens. Most avoidant individuals expect rejection, judgment, or abandonment following emotional disclosure. When these feared consequences don't materialize, when your partner responds with understanding and acceptance instead, your nervous system begins learning that intimacy doesn't automatically lead to pain. These positive experiences slowly reshape your expectations about relationships and your worthiness of love. This process requires enormous patience with yourself. Decades of protective patterns don't dissolve overnight, and setbacks are normal parts of healing rather than evidence of failure. You might successfully navigate several triggers only to completely sabotage the next one. Progress in attachment healing is rarely linear, but each successful experience of staying present during intimacy builds resilience for future challenges. Communication becomes your most powerful tool during this process. Learn to share your attachment struggles with partners who demonstrate consistency and emotional maturity. Explain that your occasional need for space isn't rejection of them, but management of your own internal experience. Help them understand that your moments of distance or irritability often signal fear rather than genuine dissatisfaction with the relationship. Remember Emily Cooper from Emily in Paris, whose avoidance of serious commitment and tendency to create love triangles protected her from having to fully invest in any single relationship. While her behavior seemed adventurous and free-spirited, it actually revealed a deep fear of genuine intimacy and the vulnerability required for lasting love. Learning to stay present with one person through difficult emotions is far more courageous than jumping between multiple surface-level connections. The fourth essential step involves reframing loss aversion from enemy to ally. Instead of viewing your fear of loss as a character flaw or psychological defect, recognize it as evidence that you care deeply about relationships and want them to work. Your intense fear of losing someone reveals your capacity for love, even if that capacity currently expresses itself through protective behaviors rather than connecting ones. Channel this caring energy into relationship-building behaviors instead of relationship-destroying ones. When you notice yourself scanning for your partner's flaws, consciously redirect that attention toward appreciating their positive qualities. When you feel the urge to create distance, experiment with moving closer instead. When you want to pick fights, try expressing appreciation or affection. These opposite actions will feel uncomfortable initially, but discomfort often signals growth rather than danger in attachment healing. Practice what psychologists call opposite action consistently over time. If your attachment system says run, stay. If it says criticize, compliment. If it says create chaos, create peace. This isn't about suppressing your authentic feelings, but about expanding your behavioral repertoire beyond automatic defensive responses. You're teaching yourself that you have choices in how you respond to attachment activation, that you're not a slave to unconscious protective patterns. The fifth step requires building a support network that understands and supports your attachment growth. Surround yourself with friends, family members, or professionals who can help you reality test your perceptions during difficult relationship moments. Choose support people who won't automatically validate your desire to sabotage relationships, but will help you examine whether your concerns are attachment-based or legitimately relationship-based. Consider working with a therapist who specializes in attachment issues, particularly someone trained in emotionally focused therapy or other attachment-based approaches. Professional support can accelerate your healing process and help you navigate complex relationship situations with greater skill and self-awareness. Therapy provides a safe relationship context for practicing vulnerability and working through attachment triggers without risking important personal relationships. Remember that healing attachment wounds is not a solo journey. The injuries that created avoidant patterns happened in relationships, and healing most effectively occurs within healthy relational contexts. This means taking calculated risks with trustworthy people, allowing yourself to be seen and supported during vulnerable moments, and gradually expanding your capacity for emotional intimacy. As we reach the conclusion of this exploration, it's important to recognize that understanding how avoidance turn loss aversion into relationship sabotage is only the beginning of transformation. Knowledge alone doesn't heal attachment wounds or change behavioral patterns that have been years or decades in the making. Real change requires consistent practice, enormous self-compassion, and the courage to stay present with uncomfortable emotions instead of running toward familiar patterns of distance and control. The path forward isn't about eliminating your attachment system or pretending that fears of loss don't exist. These fears are normal human responses to the inherent vulnerability of loving someone. The goal is learning to feel these fears without being controlled by them, to acknowledge the risk of loss while still choosing connection over protection. This balance between honoring your need for safety and pursuing your desire for love represents the essence of earned security. Every time you choose to stay present during attachment activation, every moment you resist the urge to sabotage something beautiful, every instance of vulnerability that doesn't result in the rejection you expected, you're rewiring decades of protective programming. These small acts of courage accumulate over time, creating new neural pathways that support connection rather than destroying it. You're literally changing your brain's expectations about relationships and your worthiness of love. The relationships you save through this work won't just be romantic partnerships. Understanding and healing avoidant patterns improves your connections with friends, family members, colleagues, and most importantly, yourself. When you stop running from intimacy in romantic relationships, you often discover you've been running from intimacy everywhere, protecting yourself from the full richness of human connection across all areas of life. Consider this your invitation to interrupt the cycle that has perhaps been running your relationships for too long. The next time you feel the familiar urge to find flaws in someone who cares about you, pause and ask yourself whether you're seeing clearly or protecting defensively. When your attachment system starts generating urgent messages about needing to escape or create distance, remember that these feelings are temporary visitors, not permanent residents requiring immediate accommodation. Start small, but start somewhere. Choose one relationship in your life where you can practice staying present instead of running away. This might be a romantic partner, a close friend, or even a family member with whom you've maintained emotional distance. Commit to noticing when your protective patterns activate and experiment with responding differently, even if those new responses feel uncomfortable initially. The courage required for this work cannot be understated. Choosing vulnerability over protection, connection over control, and presence over distance goes against every survival instinct that has kept you emotionally safe throughout your life. But safety and aliveness aren't the same thing, and the life you're protecting may not be the life you actually want to live. Your capacity for love is not broken, merely protected. Your desire for connection is not foolish, merely frightened. The same intensity that currently drives your sabotage patterns can be redirected toward building the deep, lasting relationships your heart has always craved. The choice, as always, remains yours. But now, at least, you understand that it truly is a choice, and choices can always be made differently than they've been made before.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to better understand avoidance, relationships, and psychological biases, then subscribe to our channel, because you deserve beautiful relationships.